Boxing is a sport of titans, a stage where legends rise and pretenders are exposed. For the past decade, two names have echoed louder than the rest. Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing, and Terence "Bud" Crawford, the assassin from Omaha. When their paths crossed under the bright lights, many doubted the Nebraskan's ability to jump 3 weight divisions to conquer an all-time great. But as always, he defied the odds and showed his greatness. This is GOAT season, the unprecedented run of Terence Crawford. July 29th, 2023, a date that will live in boxing infamy. After 4 long years of anticipation, fans were either heartbroken or vindicated, as Terence Crawford didn't just beat Errol Spence, he dismantled him. Some argued Spence wasn't the same, but let's be honest. It is hard to envision any version of Spence beating Crawford that night. It was a masterclass. And for many, it was also the moment they realized Crawford was an all-time great and capable of beating Canelo.
Terence gets Canelo now, Terence should dominate him.
You know, Crawford is just like he's a beast, bro. He's not like a normal person. Crawford is stronger than David Benavidez, bro.
Canelo knows there are 2 guys out there that he can't beat. One is Crawford, and the other is David Benavidez.
Crawford had conquered his biggest challenge, the fighter many felt he had avoided for years through duplicitous negotiations and other tactics, and now it was time for a new challenge. However, despite his supreme confidence, Crawford had reservations. He began his career at 135 pounds, and now, at 36 years old, would have to climb multiple weight divisions to fight Canelo. Even Crawford admitted there were doubts. Here's what he had to say.
I don't see nobody else on that level of Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, besides Canelo, and he fights at 168 plus, so I don't see me and him fighting. So
what's the highest you could fight at realistically?
I would say 154 realistic. 154. You know,
so
them boys get big up there. Them boys get big up there. And I'm not a person to, you know, toot my own horn too loud to be able to say, oh, well, I can beat the world. You know, I understand there's weight classes for a reason, and I respect the weight classes. And yeah, I think 154 will be my max. Given the age, I'm about to be 36 years old.
That was the stance. Sensible, reasonable, and logical. But after careful reflection, the idea of moving to 168 no longer seemed impossible. Slowly, Crawford's perspective began to shift.
I mean, everybody keeps bringing up Canelo. I think that's weird, you know, because you'd have to gain like, what, 20 pounds?
Yeah.
But they say that's the money fight. That's the mega fight. That's the money fight. That's the only thing that makes sense for Terence Crawford.
Well, you know what I mean? Catch weight. We can do something at a catch weight.
What weight you think?
Probably like 160 or something.
How do you not lead with ego? Like if you hear somebody like Tank say 147, I knock Bud out.
There's definitely levels, you know, and if he come up to 147 and he's thinking he's just gonna knock Terence Crawford out, got another thing coming.
So that's the fight you would make happen? If he wanted to come up to 147?
Yeah, I'll stay at 147 for him. That's a big money.
That's a big fight, yeah.
It's a big money fight, you know. Yeah, a lot of people don't know 135 and 147 is a big jump. You know, that's almost 20 pounds. Well, 22. 12. Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
12 pounds.
The picture was becoming clear. Crawford now had Canelo in his sights. A showdown that promised not only a massive payday, but the chance to cement his legacy as an all-time great. And when the call-outs grew louder, here's how Canelo responded.
And you know, another opponent out there for you, you're going back and forth with him a little bit. Terence Crawford all of a sudden. It's as if there's a lot of momentum and Now he's open to fighting you at 168 pounds. Is this an intriguing matchup for you? Are you serious? Could you seriously consider this fight if it's there for the taking for you?
Look, we don't. I respect Crawford. He's a great fighter, and I always say that. No disrespect to him, but sometimes it's a little crazy that people talking about I'm gonna face a small fighter like Charlo. He's big, which he is big, and everybody's talking about if I'm gonna face Crawford, fighter 147, who is smaller than Charlo. So no make sense when you guys say that right now. I don't understand, right? Because you're talking about I take Charlo if he's 2 weight classes lower than me, and then you're talking about Crawford and this and that. At the end of the day, I don't want to have credit to face Crawford, right? So no matter what, but you never know. You never know in boxing.
Absolutely.
I'll go up and down and fight everybody out there. So it's possible. Why not? It's possible. Why not?
You're a businessman, Canelo. I'm sure if it makes business sense, you'll.
If it makes sense, I'm down. Do it.
In other words, if the money is right, he was willing to risk facing a smaller Terence Crawford, which was disappointing considering he wouldn't fight Benavidez for any amount of money. In the weeks that followed, Crawford was everywhere, every outlet, every mic, calling for a Canelo fight. But there was one obstacle. He was still obligated to give Errol Spence a rematch. Spence soon triggered the clause, yet negotiations began to stall. The reason? We found out later. I broke the story that the rematch was being held up by Crawford's push to renegotiate the original terms of the contract. Here's what I had to say on the topic.
Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, the rematch, has stalled, Jay. And it has stalled because Terence Crawford is saying that in order for him to fight at 154, he would be interested in getting more money than what they had already agreed upon. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, everything has already been agreed upon in principle in terms of the contracts, and therefore Terence Crawford is already obligated to give him the rematch. I'm not so sure it's that clear cut, and here's why. The loser has the opportunity to initiate the rematch. The winner chooses to wait. So if Terence is saying, well, I'll fight you at 54, but only for more money, and if you are saying that you don't want to provide me with more money, that's fine. I have to honor the obligation of the rematch, but I'm going to honor it at 147.
As tension simmered between Spence and Crawford behind the scenes, Canelo Alvarez kept his focus on Jermell Charlo. In the lead up to the fight, Charlo appeared confident and inspired.
When you look at the fight, what do you think Canelo's going to be most surprised about you on Fight Night?
My speed and my power. I think he's going to really be surprised by my power. I'm way stronger than he thinks. Yeah, durability, not being drained and all of that kind of stuff. I'll be able to last longer and have a good mental behind it.
Despite moving up from 154 to 168 pounds, he even looked physically bigger than Canelo, leading many to believe he had a real chance to pull off the upset. But on Fight Night, reality told a different story. Charlo entered the ring looking anything but confident. Once he felt Canelo's power, he shifted into survival mode, offering little offense. The result was a dominant victory for Canelo Alvarez, and a stark reminder of why weight classes exist in the first place. Meanwhile, the long-awaited Spence versus Crawford rematch slipped further out of reach. In October 2023, Showtime announced it was leaving boxing altogether, killing any momentum for the rematch. Then, in January 2024, Spence revealed he needed cataract surgery, ending any hope of seeing the two in the ring again. Crawford, never one to wait around, moved up to 154 pounds, leveraging his status as WBO super champion to target the winner of Tszyu versus Fundora for his next big moment. Around this time, the relationship between Terence Crawford and Turki Al-Sheikh, a Saudi power broker, first started to surface. According to Crawford, their connection went all the way back to 2019, when he was still with Top Rank, and Al-Sheikh was no doubt the investor Crawford referenced during the Spence negotiations. As Crawford moved up in weight, Al-Sheikh began taking a much more public interest in him. That's when his influence became crystal clear. Fundora won a controversial decision over Zoo, but left the fight injured, with his promoter claiming he wouldn't return until September. Crawford didn't buy it, and apparently neither did the WBO. In an unprecedented move, they made Crawford the WBO interim champion. The WBA went even further, allowing him to fight for their regular title despite already holding another belt, a level of special treatment no fighter had ever received before, and one that clearly signaled Turki Al-Sheikh growing power in the sport. Many of Crawford's fans still clung to the dream of a Canelo fight, a chance to silence critics who questioned the legitimacy of his greatness. But the spotlight was already shifting toward a new chapter, Crawford's potential reign at 154 pounds. Supporters argued that capturing a third undisputed crown would give him a case for greatest of all time. And while that may be a stretch, it would certainly make him the GOAT of this generation, a feat even his harshest detractors would have to respect. His first test at the new weight, a little-known fighter from Uzbekistan with only 12 professional bouts, Errol Madrimov. Terence Crawford stepped into the ring as the overwhelming favorite, but what unfolded surprised many. Errol Madrimov used clever movement and well-timed feints to keep Crawford off balance, disrupting the Nebraskan's rhythm while landing clean shots of his own. Crawford looked a step slower, cautious of Madrimov's power, and it quickly became clear this wasn't the dominant version of Crawford we'd seen in recent fights. As the bout wore on, Crawford began to find his timing in the middle and late rounds, ultimately escaping with a narrow decision, 115-113 on 2 cards, 116-112 on the third. While some argue Madrimov deserved the nod, a notion we find absurd, the fight was undeniably closer than most expected. After the fight, the WBO ordered Sebastian Fundora to defend his WBC and WBO super welterweight titles against Terence Crawford to unify the belts, giving both sides 30 days to reach a deal. Fundora and his promoter, Samson Lukowicz, appeared eager to make the fight happen. Crawford, however, had his sights set on bigger prey. Crawford and Fundora reached a temporary agreement, allowing Fundora to first take on Errol Spence. The understanding was that, after that voluntary defense, the unification bout between Crawford and Fundora would be explored. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez was scheduled to fight Edgar Berlanga, a fight no one was asking for. Canelo cruised to a unanimous decision, dropping Berlanga in the third round, but once again failing to impress. It marked his second underwhelming performance of the year after going the distance with Jaime Munguia in May, fueling even more speculation among Crawford fans that believed Canelo was ripe for the taking. As 2024 ended, not much was being reported on the Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford fight. The buzz had quieted down, and fans wondered if it would ever happen. Then, on February 3rd, the Ring magazine shocked the boxing world. They announced an agreement was in place. Canelo and Crawford would clash in September on a Riyadh season card in Las Vegas. For the first time, this Fugazi fight felt real. But behind the scenes, Canelo was negotiating with Jake Paul. A May 3rd Las Vegas showdown was being lined up, crossover money, mainstream attention, and a payday too big to ignore. Just 3 days later, on February 6th, the Ring flipped the story upside down. The same outlet that said the fight was on now declared it off. Fans were stunned. How could a fight go from done deal to dead in days? Then, the shocking twist. On February 7th, Canelo signed a 4-fight deal with Riyadh Season. The Jake Paul fight? Gone. But Crawford locked in for September. It was clear. Turkey had offered Canelo a deal he could not refuse, securing the opportunity for Terence Crawford to solidify his greatness on the world stage versus arguably the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. Meanwhile, the man many considered the best at 154 outside of Crawford stepped in against Vergil Ortiz. The outcome shocked some. Ortiz put belt to ass, dominating Madrimov, leaving no doubt who the better man was that night. That performance raised real questions about Crawford's ability to withstand the dangers of the higher weight classes. As part of Canelo Alvarez's new 4-fight deal, the path was laid out. Before he could face Terence Crawford in May, he first had to capture the IBF super middleweight title. That belt had been stripped from him the previous year after he failed to fight mandatory challenger William Skull. And that stipulation didn't just appear out of thin air. It had the fingerprints of Turkey all over it, ensuring Canelo versus Crawford was for Undisputed. Crawford wanted to fight for all the marbles and leave no doubt his place in history as one of the greatest of all times. So Canelo faced Skull on May 3rd, and in what could only be described as one of the shittiest fights ever, he got the job done. Fatigued by life in Saudi, Canelo trudged through 12 rounds of lifeless wrestling, while Skull did everything he could to avoid a fight. It was painfully dull, yet technically, Canelo got through it. But as soon as the fight ended, everything changed. Crawford entered the ring with Turkey by his side. In that instant, the narrative shifted. The Crawford fight was on. His chance to become legendary was no longer just possible. It was about to happen. The build-up to Canelo-Crawford had been dull. Press conferences that felt routine. Training footage recycled again and again. And even a staged dinner with Turkey, where the two men broke bread together instead of building tension. For a fight of this magnitude, fans expected fireworks. Instead, they got handshakes and smiles. But then, finally, the monotony cracked.
You know what? I didn't. He did before. He tried to welcome me back, and it just was my reaction. That's it. You know, you know what kind of fighter I am. I always try to respect my opponents. You know me. I respect everybody, but if you fuck with me, so it's gonna be different.
Turkey didn't ask me to do nothing. I didn't touch him.
You know.
Listen.
Hey, we know, buddy. We know.
First and foremost, somebody was in the room saying that I was scared of them. So I stepped to him and showed him who was the boss of this fight. I ain't scared of shit.
As they entered fight week, the tension eased slightly. The Crawfords' camp grew even bolder, doubling down on their approach and their predictions for how the fight would play out.
How does this fight play out, man? Could we possibly get a stoppage? Crawford can stop Canelo Alvarez?
I think he could. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Bud goes to a different dimension in here. You know the task at hand, and nothing's out of the realm in boxing.
Definitely. And Bernie, being that Canelo has that great chin, would some of the keys to success be going to the body and trying to break, people really never tested, Canelo in the body. And Crawford is a body snatcher.
Because everybody going there terrified of him and trying to run out of there. Crawford ain't terrified of him. That's going to be the difference.
Exactly.
Any closing remarks from your side on how this fight's going to go?
Stay tuned. Watch out. See this masterpiece.
And a masterpiece it was. From the opening bell, Crawford dictated distance, slipping Canelo's power shots and using angles that left the Mexican icon swinging its shadows. In the middle rounds, Canelo began to close the gap and found moments of success, but Crawford's sharp counters kept him in command, nullifying Alvarez's offense. Still, in true Canelo fashion, judges fuckface 1, 2, and 3 had it razor tight. Crawford needed the final 2 rounds, and he delivered. Against all odds, he climbed 3 weight classes and stood undisputed. His post-fight words? Nothing short of legendary.
When I set my sights on doing something and I know what I'm capable of, it's not like a surprise to me. It's a surprise to y'all because y'all didn't believe me, you know, but for me, I knew I could do it and I believed that I could do it. I just needed the opportunity.
Terence, when did you know that you were going to beat him over here on your left?
When he signed the contract.
With this victory, Terence Crawford silenced the critics, myself included, as one of his harshest detractors. But now, it's time to give this man his flowers. A generational talent, a champion whose name will be etched in the annals of history as the best of his era. We salute you, Bud Crawford. This has been an AM Sports Media production. Thank you for watching.